All right, and then next we have Danielle Enns. She is the head of e-commerce with Rode.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Claudia and I are super excited to chat with you all about social media. Like Brittany said, I am the head of e-commerce for Rode, the skincare brand, Hailey Bieber's line. I also handle all of the digital marketing for our D2C site. So I'm sort of, I guess, the owner or keeper of our Shopify website, and then the other direct response channels for it. So email, SMS, and paid media. I've been in the beauty industry for almost 10 years now, which is a little kind of crazy. I started on the retail sales side and moved to the e-commerce side. So I've been in sort of beauty sales and marketing for nearly 10 years. And I love it. Definitely no place I'd rather be.
Wonderful. Thank you, Danielle. So excited to have you here. And finally, we have Claudia Allwood, the Chief Marketing Officer of Rode. Hi, Claudia.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Like Danielle said, we're from Rode, which is a skincare brand that launched in June, started by Hailey Bieber. I've also been in beauty for over 10 years and have worked more on the brand marketing side, so truly overseeing all of our digital channels, social media growth. I started in beauty before Instagram was a thing, so it's been really fun to see the rise of social as a business lever and tool. From anything from a small startup, I've been on the startup side to more of the big brand side as well. So excited to chat with you and hear all your questions and answer what we can.
Wonderful. All right, so we've got the topic, we've got the amazing expert. So I think it's time that we go ahead and jump into it. So I'm going to kick it to Beth Ann to get us started.
Thanks so much, Brittany. And just very quickly, I'll introduce myself. I am a business advisor here at the Accion Opportunity Fund. I've been business advising for the past 3 or 4 years, but I'm also an entrepreneur myself. I've owned 2 businesses, one a cafe and catering business, and I currently own a wine business with my husband. So a lot of food and beverage experience and a lot of experience doing social media for my own companies. So excited to share what words of wisdom I can. So we'll kick it off with, just what is social media marketing? So basically it is the use of different social media platforms. So by social media platforms, we mean things like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, basically using those platforms to sort of connect with your audience, to build your brand, obviously increase sales. Everyone wants to increase sales and drive traffic to your website. So the first thing you want to do, when you're planning to use social media, and a lot of my clients, they look at social media as sort of this necessary evil. A lot of people are like, oh, I really don't want to do it, but they know they have to. And so, you really need to figure out what your goal is going to be. Are you going to try to engage with your audience, build community, build your brand, all of these things you should be doing. Do you really want to drive sales? But you need to set these goals so that you can actually measure the success that you're having with social media. Now, everyone always asks, should I use Facebook? Should I use Instagram? Should I use TikTok? You definitely want to, identify which social media platforms are going to be the best for your business. So the first thing you need to do is know your target market. You need to know what the demographics of your target market. Are you targeting baby boomers? Are you targeting, Gen X? Are you targeting millennials, or are you targeting, Gen Z, younger audience? So that's really important to know when choosing a social media platform, because as my 24-year-old daughter will tell you, Facebook is not cool, but in my, for the moms like me out there, we still use Facebook a lot. So if you're targeting that 24-year-old or 20-year-old market, you're going to maybe use a different platform than you would if you're targeting my generation. You want to look at, what are your competitors doing? You always want to, this is the great thing about social media, is that you can follow all your competitors. and see what they're doing, and see which platforms they're using and follow their example. You should understand the different platforms and how they're used. Different platforms are good for different things. And also just keep in mind your resources. Most social media is free to use, but there are tools that you can use on social media that do cost some money. So you need to think about that. So the most common social media platforms that people use for business purposes are Facebook, as I mentioned. Now, this is an absolutely, huge platform with over almost 3 billion users worldwide. So, very influential, but again, slightly skewed at this point to a slightly older audience. But has a lot of great tools that you can use, advertising, you can put lots of information about your business. So it can be, a really good tool. Instagram has over 1 billion followers, so also very widely used. It tends to be a much more image-driven platform. Everything on Instagram is a photo or a video or a story. So it's often really good for very creative type businesses, great for food businesses. I know I used Instagram a lot for my food and beverage businesses, so really great for that. Twitter is good for sort of short updates. It can be useful for business, but usually just for sort of newsy kind of, update things. And then we have LinkedIn. LinkedIn tends to be the best one for sort of business to business marketing, great for networking and things like that. YouTube, obviously video driven, so can be a very, great tool for showing videos or, using influencers. You can have, influencers on YouTube talk up your business. TikTok is, really aimed at the younger audience. I have not used TikTok a lot. I'm hoping Danielle and Claudia can maybe talk a little bit to that, but definitely a very, very hot platform if used in the right way. So those are just some overview of some different, there's also, things like Snapchat and Pinterest, etc. But for business purposes, at least for the purposes of this conversation, these are the ones that I would focus on.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth Ann. And I just wanted to let everyone know the chat is open. So as we're going through, questions, comments, throw them in there. All right.
And I am going to kick it over now to Danielle and Claudia to talk about building brand awareness.
Yeah, so brand awareness is, of course, how people find your brand, how discoverable and how discovered you are. So it's kind of a measure of like how recognizable you are upon just seeing a logo. Nike being the most premium example, you just see the swoosh, you know who they are. For us, as we're building a brand, how do we kind of create our own personality in the digital space that resonates, that helps build community, that also makes us stand a bit differentiated from our consumers, where we become recognizable. We become known for our aesthetic or our personality or our voice and tone. All content helps build our brand equity and how our brand shows up online. But that awareness is a measure of how recognizable we become. So let's see, let's go to the next slide. So it's brand awareness comes from the way that the way I've looked at it in my, with the past brands I've worked with. And I've worked with brands like Benefit Cosmetics, Tatcha Skincare, and I've had clients in my past life like Kashi Cereal and Sky Vodka. So across, and even Firefox when I was in my agency days. It's basically awareness comes from finding a really meaningful way to be discovered. And I think when it comes online and it comes to social communities, especially, we need to know where our audience, our intended target audience, naturally engages. If I'm going for a Gen Zer, she's on her phone all the time. Like, I don't even want to talk about my daughter's phone usage, but I know that thing it's attached to her hand at all times. So I know I'm going to look for her on whatever she's communicating with, whether it's Snapchat, whether it's, whether it's TikTok. If I'm from that brand and I'm appealing to that audience, I want to find out what their behavior is. What's their digital diet? So where do they live? Where are they most open to receiving and discovering our brand? Like, where am I going to like get them right at the right time and have fun with them too? What do they engage with? What do they love online? So, we know Snapchat is a closed loop. It's one-to-one communication. It's hard for brands to integrate. However, TikTok affords us a way to be playful, have personality, kind of experiment. It's still the wild, wild west on the internet. It allows us to sort of still kind of play in that personality and appeal to them and their what they're into and their interests, and kind of find those passions and niche. So humor is a big thing for a lot of brands, especially on TikTok. Not every brand is humorous. Not every brand, especially if you're a service brand, that may not fit who you are, and that's okay. So you find where those sweet spots are. If I'm a business seeking clients, business to business, LinkedIn is perfect. There's many different ways to leverage LinkedIn to appeal to that community specifically and that consumer mindset. And then who do you align with? I think part of it is we can't be the only ones shouting about our businesses. We have to have others do that for us. So for us, it is who do we align with? Are there other community members, friends, influencers? If I have a product, am I finding a way to gift it to people are tastemakers, who will discover it, who will review it for me? Am I getting testimonials from loved ones and so forth? So I think there's myriad ways to sort of not just be our own megaphone, but really focusing on how to get others to sort of speak positively or share the word about our brand. And it can start small and cascade out. And that kind of comes with diligence and time and commitment to the community over time as well. And Danielle, I'm not sure if you have anything else to add.
No, the only thing that I'll add is like this whole topic in general can, I think, feel really intimidating to a lot of people. And I think it's really easy to look at a very like curated Instagram feed or like a TikTok account with just so many views and people killing it with content, but that all happens over time. And I think it's okay to test and learn while you're small. If anything, like you have to figure out what kind of content is going to appeal to your followers. And that also might change, right, as you grow and as your audience gets bigger. So I would definitely say, try to make as many mistakes as you can at the beginning, because that's really where you'll learn.
Great. Next slide.
So the other thing that's really important on social media is building community. So, you're building a community of people, like-minded people who are interested in your product, are interested in your business. It promotes engagement, increases your brand visibility, and at the end of the day, attracts more customers, which is what we all ultimately want. Now, how do you build this community? And Claudia and Danielle are going to talk a little bit about some ways to do this. But you want to invite your friends to engage. That's how you sort of start to build your community. Hey, follow my business on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. Use hashtags, and hashtags are a whole other thing. Maybe I'll let Danielle and Claudia take that one. But they're a whole element of social media that's really important. You want to make sure you respond to comments in the chat because people are commenting and they want to be acknowledged. It's always a great idea to share third-party content, invite followers to share content, and highlight followers. People like to be recognized. So I will now kick it over to Danielle and Claudia to go in a bit more on the whole community building piece.
Right. So as Beth Ann was saying, friends and family, the easiest ones, they're your loved ones, getting them to sort of talk about your content. One of the easiest hacks that we use and we have, which is going to sound really, really silly and shady, but it actually works beautifully, is we call it a ghost tag. So if you post on Instagram stories, you tag people's names that you can be your friends, families, people who you know, and you kind of hide it. You sort of either put it behind the picture, move it to the side, make it the same color, and you kind of hide it so it doesn't look like you're tagging a bunch of people and you're spamming a bunch of people on your post. But it shows up in their direct messages, and then they can just add it to their story right away. So you make it really easy for that shareability of that content. And you can also encourage a call to action. So please share this post. You can also make it more personalized as well. This is more, we led more with a lot of Instagram here, since we know that Instagram is one of the most common ways of building a community quickly. Facebook takes a lot more discoverability. It's harder to find. Twitter is a lot to maintain, and it's sometimes the juice is not worth the squeeze. So we kind of leaned more into Instagram for the purposes of this presentation, but this can be applied to almost any social platform. As Beth Ann said, engaging with everyone, liking and responding to people who have taken the time to comment on your posts means a lot, and people see that engagement, right? So they see that you're responding, you're active, you are willing to sort of participate with them. They're not just a consumer, it's a conversation, it's a community. So that's how you start building that kind of traction. Also, customer care happens. I would say, Danielle can testify, I think 80% of our DMs, if not more, are through DMs.
80% of our customer care tickets, and we get a lot of them there. It's all Instagram DMs, which is wild.
Yeah. So even if you're like, oh, customer care, email help at it, nope, they're going to go to the DMs, they're going to comment on your post, especially if you have a product or service that they're looking for, they need an answer on something, whether it's how does this fit? Does this have hyaluronic acid? I'm allergic to carrots. It doesn't even matter. It's all going to happen right either in feed or in DM. And it's how much you kind of foster that conversation and that you have the time to dedicate to it. So versus opening 4 different social channels, start with 1 and see what the volume is of your conversation, because community management and moderation and this engaging with everyone is going to be the thing that serves you the best, but will take the most amount of time.
I just want to jump in. Maybe you can make sure everyone understands what DMs are.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm so sorry. So direct messaging, it's basically how if in Instagram, there's a way to message any account owner. And it basically takes the conversation into a private chat with a user, a one-to-one person. There are people, if you have an account that's public, even if an account that's private, the way that Instagram has it sorted, if you're not a business account, you're still a personal account, it'll put things in a queue. So you'll have to check the queue to see if you want to respond. You may not want to respond to spam, but you may want to respond to genuine concerns and questions in that little messaging one-to-one app. Instagram and Facebook now have it accessible where if your Instagram account is attached, your business Instagram is attached to your business Facebook page, it all goes through Facebook Messenger. So you can just sit there on your laptop and not be on your phone and just answer any questions that you may have as well, which makes it a little bit easier. Sorry, I know I'm completely in the lingo. I apologize.
No, most people probably know, but I know some people don't. So.
Of course. And then as far as sharing and reposting, so one of the ways in which to really show that you're embracing that community, you're embracing people who create content. Again, if somebody has stopped and bothered to take a photo of the dish you made or has written a review on the service that you provided, sharing that is so special. And it really not only makes them feel good inside, but it shows others that you're willing to kind of promote them as well and give them thanks. So, again, sharing and reposting, commenting with authenticity and gratitude, taking the time to really engage with that content. One of the tricks that we have, so, for brands that are building a more aesthetic feed, that are very curated, that have a very, firm kind of control on what they want their feed to look like, that don't want a lot of eclectic content, which is completely the brand's personality. Some brands are like, it's totally great. And some brands have a much more curated aesthetic. One way of doing it is sharing it in what we call ephemeral media. So Instagram stories, or even on a TikTok, you can kind of curate and collect this and make it a moment where you're sharing everyone's beautiful content. Herbivore does this beautifully. They do Fan Fridays every Friday. They take the best of what they've gotten over the course of the week and they put it in a story. They tag the user, they thank them publicly. And then that way it's not necessarily cluttering their feed, because they do have so much inbound content, but they're still celebrating and showing that community so much love and appreciation. And one thing to note is always ask for permission first. We've seen a lot of big brands and small brands get in trouble with reposting without permission. You are a business. It's still your responsibility to make sure that you have consent from everyone to share their content. Even if they wrote a beautiful review, they may want compensation in order for you to use that content. It's a simple request, whether you comment on their photos, send them a direct message, or even an email saying, I love this so much. Would I be able to repost this? I'm so honored. That goes a very long way to ask consent, but it's important from a legal perspective too, where we've seen some big brands kind of get in trouble for using content creator and influencer content without permission or compensation. The next part is creating easy engagements. So make it really easy for your community to engage. Instagram, I think even TikTok now is rolling out, and Twitter has polls, like really fun little features, almost like little stickers that you can add onto a story. Even in the caption of what you write for LinkedIn, they have this too. Give me, show me claps if you, give me the clap symbol if you want to vote for this, or show me like a heart if you want to vote for this. It is a fun way to engage the community in the easiest possible manner, where all they have to do is add an emoji, add a comment, or give a reaction to a post. It also kind of gives you a nice quick litmus test if you're thinking of like, oh, I'd like to sort of see if should I roll out this first or that first? If you actually want to ask or invite their opinion, it is a great way to test something or an idea to see what they're feeling about it, get a temperature check quickly from the community. This is great for services. This is great for a business. If you're launching something new, what are you looking for? Or I'm debating between these two things, or even a color. It's a really fun way. And then you can actually show them like, hey guys, you voted. We went with this, you asked for this, right? This is kind of bringing that back to the community when you actually do take their advice into consideration. And it's a fun one too. You can also just make it fun and enjoyable, and they don't have to be so serious. They can also be like, it's Monday. Do we feel like this? Do we feel like this? It can just be a nice little surprise and delight as well, to just keep the community knowing that you're conversing with them. And the last part is hashtagging. So staying relevant. Hashtags it's discoverability, right? So at this point, even Google, I think, indexes hashtags across different social media platforms. You can search now on Google. If you are a service, if I'm a hairstylist, there are so many different hashtags for hairstylists, and people search by hashtags. So my daughter has incredibly curly hair. I might search for curly hair, just hashtag curly hair I'm looking for a haircut for her, to get an idea of what I want her to have. I'm going to do that on Instagram. I might even do that on Pinterest. I can search by hashtag on all these different platforms to see, and I might find, oh, this hairstylist is really cute. Oh, she's in LA. Let me just go to her. That discoverability is what you're thinking through. And you don't want to like spam every post with a million hashtags, which can work for some brands. You may want to be a bit more selected and curated. That would make sense to me. But it is important to sort of know that there is power in those. LinkedIn has that function too, and that feature. So if you're looking for content on, beauty business, for me, I'm always looking at the beauty business hashtag, or skincare, skincare industry hashtag, just to see what's happening and what news I've missed. That's more on that corporate level. That's going to be where I search for that content. But again, use them judiciously. They can look a little crazy on posts. So just, as long as they look clean and organized, don't hashtag every word that you use. You still want the content to feel legible and authentic. And Danielle, anything else to add?
The only other thing I'll say on hashtags is if you're looking for ways to find new hashtags or figure out which hashtags you should use, I think the best way to do it is to find other businesses like yours, or kind of figure out where you want to be and find the creators that are at the top, or even somewhere in the middle on the explore page, or once you search, and you can click on those hashtags and then see the actual the volume around it. I think for a small business, it can be really valuable to tap into some of those like more niche, like mid-level hashtags, because so many people are hashtagging, right? Like curly hair is a great example. Like you have a ton of like ideation, but content that you can look at, but it might take you a while to find like LA hairstylist. And I say that as someone who's like, I was searching for LA hairstylists a couple of years ago, and that's how I found my current one. But I was sort of amazed at how little there was. Like there was a good amount, but I wish I could have found more. So I think a great way to figure out, like to find clients, could be to access these more niche hashtags, which will allow people to come to your business and find you.
To answer the question in the chat about finding, there's the index, basically in the search bar for LinkedIn, if you enter the hashtag of whatever you think it might be, there's not really a proper index. I also follow some people who are a bit more prolific on Instagram and I look at, or sorry, on LinkedIn, and I look at what hashtags they're using and I just click on that tag and it kind of helps surface it. I also follow for myself, for example, I follow Glossy Co, which is the marketing and business like reporting arm of Digiday. So it's like an industry newsletter. And they have their hashtags always listed there. So I go to like a publisher's LinkedIn page and look at them. So that's kind of how I've found my industry ones that I follow and like. And what's next?
Yeah, so that was all amazing information. I think, you know, the takeaway from the whole idea of building community is you don't want social media to just be this static thing where you're just posting pictures and nothing happens. You want the engagement. So I love everything that they just went over, just really great advice. The other thing that you want to be really conscious of is putting out really great content. You want to use, you know, really high quality photographs, you know, really good video, just, you know, really interesting, you know, take a minute to really think about what you're posting. You want things to be high quality because this is how you're going to capture the audience's attention by, you know, constantly posting this, you know, really great content. And Claudia and Danielle are going to actually go through some great examples of really wonderful content as examples. So I'll pass it to them.
Your content, again, we leveraged Instagram here, but this can be applied to almost any social medium. Your content is your pages, your profiles, they're your homes, right? They're your storefronts on social. You don't want people coming into a messy or chaotic home. You want to kind of have a sense of harmony in what you're posting, what you're talking about. Even for a blog, right? If you're just writing content, you don't want it to be, one is like my vacation travel, two is like out of left field, unless that's the personality of what you're curating. You want to still have a bit of restraint on what you post. And it's knowing what those, pick 4 topics or 4 different, we call them pillars of content at Rode. There's like 4 things that we always feature and talk about. Our Rode content pillars are Haley as the founder. We have skincare, of course, front and center, showing skin, natural skin, unfiltered, unretouched, raw skin. That's a big part of our core brand principles. The 3rd is showing our packaging and our design equity. And then the 4th is just sort of this very clean graphic aesthetic. So those are kind of the guardrails for how we show up online. There's a lot of nuances to that, and every brand is different. If you look at Benefit Cosmetics, it's pink. Pink is everywhere. Pink and eyebrows and humor. So they're owning these principles of their brand. So how do these brands show up and stay very like core to their personality? They do it through this great content exercise. First things first, as Beth Ann mentioned, is beautiful imagery. It doesn't have to be shot in studio. It doesn't have to be expensive. 2 of these are shot on iPhones. It just has to kind of capture the brand's personality and moment. So they should look like they fit in the world of the brand. The Starfix example, which is the second one from the left, is one of my favorites. It's from one of their community members, but if you look at their feed always has yellow in it. And they've built such great equity around that yellow and that little star that now they have consumers and their fans going out of their way to capture photos with that yellow that they don't even have to ask for it. They know they'll be featured in feed because it looks like Starface. It's a very cool way of owning that color and owning that aesthetic, but still leveraging someone from the community that still looks super cool in their total feed. Bright lighting, crisp items in focus, not using filters or graphics. You don't want to distort the look of anything. I think even though if it's a little bit tricky because we want to make everyone look really good, sometimes filters can be a bit polarizing and also can distort the look of your goods. You may want to be careful with that. If you're selling a product, both the shots on the left and the right, they've attached their Shopify catalog to their Instagram. So you can tag the product. So if I love these pillows from Justina Blakeney, my obsession, the Jungalow on the right, like the best home brand, I'm obsessed with her. I know I can click on that little shopping bag tag at the bottom, and those 2 product links will appear and I can buy them right from Instagram. that's massive. That is huge for a small brand. Not only am I seeing a beautiful photo, but now I want it and I can buy it right there on the spot. Not everything has to look super polished and pretty. I mean, that food dish is beautiful, but it's shot over, sidewalk and concrete, but it's still appetizing. It still like invites me in. It feels a bit more intimate. It feels compelling. I think, I think when it comes to the question about uniformity and lighting, I'm a purist when it comes to like my personal Instagram feed. But I also have like, I've added a border to mine to make it look like a certain aesthetic, but my photos I use Visco, VSCO, I'll write it in the chat. They have some like lighting tweaks and some light filtering, but it's not going to distort it. They have options for you to make it look crazy. I think on our end, when we shoot on iPhone, we try to just use phone tools to edit. We try not to do too much photoshopping on anything. I think there are some folks, there's a million other apps out there. I know Snapseed is a popular one that people love. But we try to keep it pretty raw. Again, Photoshop is the most common from a corporate tool perspective, but it can be pricey, although you can just get monthly licensing for it if you are more prone to something a bit more technical. Danielle, anything on this side?
Yeah, I would just say like you hit the nail on the head with the filter comment, but natural lighting is usually the best thing, I think, and the cheapest thing if you don't have money for a studio or you're not sure where to start, or the lighting of where you're producing goods, for instance, isn't that great. Just go outside and it's like, it'll make a world of difference. And the iPhone piece is a big one. There's also a lot of great tutorials on YouTube around photography for iPhone specifically, iPhone tricks, iPhone hacks. I've learned a ton of stuff that I use like when I take personal photos. It's a great resource, especially if you maybe you have an older iPhone, or maybe you don't have a great phone, but there's so many cool things that you can do and learn from YouTube tutorials.
The next piece of content is video. We know that there's a lot of conversation. Obviously, TikTok has kind of taken us all by storm. Video is like the thing that's happening. Vertical video, right? No longer are we doing this beautiful, big, almost TV cinematic video. YouTube is still doing that, but even YouTube has shorts, which are like this. It's the same thing as Instagram stories, as Facebook stories. It's this sort of, now we live on these. We are attached to these. Video is now engineered for this, and it's short. It doesn't have to be long. I think they've expanded now reels up to a minute. But at the same time, that's on Instagram. They're not super polished either. I think the key with this is that the effort to create it is a commitment to time. So scheduling your time accordingly, like, hey, Fridays from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. is my content creation day, and I'm going to plan my calendar and I'm going to just dedicate my time to create content, is a really good hack in our lives to get into the habit of dedicating time to create content. It's very hard to sort of stop your day, create content for that day and go back. And you may want to plan your actual time of when you create content, especially video, because it's time consuming. Live videos are incredibly popular, but live videos are best when you have an audience that's engaged, and probably a bigger audience. Otherwise, you're going to get a low amount of viewers and the juice may not be worth the squeeze, especially if you are also running a business. One of my favorites is there's a plant store in Los Angeles where I spend entirely too much money every week. Every week, because they post, hey, what's in store this weekend? And clearly I need the 7th snake plant that has this color pink now on the leaves. I have no business going into this store every weekend, but every week they post what's new, and I walk down the street and I spend money on a planter that my boyfriend now is like, we have 4 of these. What has happened to our home? It looks like a jungle. So I think there's this really fun way of making it casual, making what's new in store, what's new at the office. My favorite is one of my dear friends owns 54 Thrones, a skincare brand. She has her employees, what they wear, get ready for me, what they wear to work, how they use their 54 Thrones product, in addition to other fun stuff. So you get a little bit of personality. You see behind the scenes of this team, you see them packing out orders. It's not just about, of course, they have like skincare content, before and after, ingredients, but they also show so much more personality that you're like, I'm so in love with this team. Like, they're so fun. They have such a good time. I love this brand. it brings you into the fold. And then one of my favorite things that started happening is actual usable content that I save. I love plant content, I love food, and I love skincare. That's pretty much all I consume on a daily basis. But skincare content, how to tell if your skin is dry versus dehydrated. I saved this video as a way for me to sort of go back to this video and refer to it. I mean, recipes, I save all these videos, I save all these TikToks because I go back to them and think, how do they make that pea ricotta squash thing that I saw that looked delightful? I will go back and refer to it. That doesn't have to just be a recipe. It can be a tip or a trick or a thing about your business. It can be, hey, we're located here. These are our hours. People will save information if they're interested in your business, or if what the information that you're providing is helpful or useful. Saves or shares. I share stuff all the time. Hey, I want to go do this weekend. Hey, poor Luis, here's this plant we're going to buy, by the way, make space. We use this video content in different ways, but it can be an incredibly useful tool for people to come back and revisit your brand, even after you've posted the content. And Danielle, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say, again, it can be pretty intimidating to get started with video content. I think it's the thing that people are most often like, I don't know where to start. They see these insane TikToks and stuff that creators make, and they're like, how do I do that? But there are so many great accounts on TikTok dedicated to how-tos and tips on filming these types of videos, which are also on Instagram Reels. And there are also accounts dedicated to showing you like, what are the trending sounds, which if you're familiar with TikTok, everything has kind of a sound, which is either sound that you make and record into the device, or you can, if you're a business, it's a little tricky of using specific sounds on TikTok. But if you still have a personal account and you're just getting started, there's a lot of ways around it. Also, too, Instagram as a platform is really prioritizing Reels, which is sort of their version of TikTok, which some of you might have heard. So you're honestly more likely to get discovered if you are regularly creating this type of content. And like Claudia said, really dedicating the time each week to learning how to do it, creating it, testing it, and just playing around in the platform. And a little like less can be more, right? You can have a 5-second clip of you talking with a specific trending sound and like a quick one-liner about your business. So I would definitely say to test here and dedicate some time to this one.
To answer the question about family childcare. So there's so much fun, but always remember to get the permission of any subjects that you have. So whether it's the customer in your store, a child, parents, even like people that come into our office, like we sometimes have like a filming sign up if we're just doing TikToks, so people know like, hey, we might be filming whatever it is. Always ask permission, number one. But even if you just want to show this space, I mean, think about what you do in a day that would be enticing to a parent. Here are the snacks we provide. Here's our healthy snacks. Here's our morning activity. Here's our routine. Here's how we sanitize, these toys. It can be all of these things. One of the tips I just saved was the florist here in LA, and she buys like vases and stuff from like Home Goods and TJ Maxx, and she's a beautiful, beautiful florist. And she was showing how to scrape off the tag on vases from like when you have like the 17 different like stickers from TJ Maxx on the bottom of a thing. She used mayonnaise. I saved that. I've sent it to 5-7 friends. 2 of them have ordered flowers from her as a result of it. It can be something related to what you do that's still useful and practical, but it's just still fun. So you can be showing, here's how we, here's our top 5 books this week that we're reading the kids. It doesn't have to just be like, here's our services. It can be the world around and what's important to you that is so different about your business that can make it really special. But yeah, that mayonnaise tip, I'm telling you.
I'm all over that. Oh my God. I love it.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. That's so crazy.
That's fascinating. Another more examples of great content are leveraging your community again. So we've talked about this before. When people have taken the time to create content for you, sharing it and giving it and making sure you have permission, of course, always first and foremost, but finding a way to like bring that into the mix to show how others are celebrating your business and brand. Restaurants and food services, it's easy. It's a regram of a Cheers in a bar. it can be, you know, this bath time that someone obviously very artfully created, somebody applying our product that's a Rhode post on the fly. It can also be this more, TikTok and Instagram have this aesthetic, especially for skincare services, hair, beauty brands. And even for any kind of reviews now, they're taking this format of like, you know, I'm just on camera, I'm going to give you my review, my honest opinion, here's my before and after. They might use this photo within a photo sort of moment, or they might duet another review. This is kind of becoming the new style of reviews, and for a lot of products on the internet right now. Finding those, searching your own brand name in the search bar of TikTok or Instagram just to see, does anything exist about me? Has anyone tagged me that I missed? Always kind of reviewing those tags. Searching your brand name as a hashtag. They may not know what your handle is, but they might have hashtagged it. And to find this content, it's authentic. It's, you know, again, you have the chance here of broadcasting, not just like, I think I'm so great, here's my brand, here's what I'm showing, but now you have other people's kind of third-party validation that you can feature on your own channels with their permission, which can go really, really far. It really helps. It helps other like-minded, you know, community members sort of see that people like them are really enjoying what you have to offer, and it might compel them to make that purchase or to reach out to book that service or whatever it is. Danielle?
Not much else to add here. The only thing I'll say is that, especially if you're attracting like a Gen Z audience, I've seen a bunch of TikToks and like sort of articles recently about how a lot of the younger generation is going to TikTok first instead of Google. And it's actually hurting Google search performance among younger demographics, which I think is really, really fascinating, because this is a very trusted platform, especially when it comes to reviews and opinions. So definitely worthwhile, if you're not at least on TikTok and you have a business, to just download the app and start to discover it, and see how people are sharing information sort of in your kind of vertical on the platform. It'll be interesting and probably eye-opening.
That's super interesting. Wow. Okay.
And the last piece of this is kind of more of what we talked about a little bit, but, you know, having a brand voice and personality, humor. I'm sure many of you kind of post. We'll get into tagging. Don't worry, we'll show you. Actually, if there's a tag in here, I'll find a demo for you. Brand voice and personality. So for us, Tia is a women's health service. It's a clinic, which is a really odd thing to sort of put on the internet. If you think about it, you're like, well, it's OBGYN, it's health services. It's not the most Instagram sexy. They're doing TikToks all over the place about coming into what their service, what their office looks like, who their providers are. They also post ridiculous memes. Memes are very much like the internet's way of connecting humor. If it's relevant to your brand, explore it. These are very popular. You might see them on people's posts in your personal friends' lives. It's pretty funny. They can carry your brand forward just by being the nature of the content being funny. Again, it has to relate to your business. It can't be at a left field. It should be tied to it if you choose to do that. But that's something to consider. On the next slide is just showing behind the scenes that we talked about in video form. This is just in photo form. Nikki, to your point about tagging, there's a little person icon that's little on the bottom left on top of the heart on the picture itself. There's a little, can you circle it for me? Yeah, that guy. So when you post a photo, a person can choose, if you can have, there's an add a tag, or you can tag a person or tag an account. You can choose to, so if I'm here at this bar and I choose to tag Capri Club LA, I can choose to search their name in that, when it says add a tag, I can search that user's handle and I can add them. So then when I look at my photos on my tagged photos in Instagram, if I look at my profile, there's a little kind of, there's an icon that shows my tagged photos. I can see who has tagged me in any recent content. And that's the most discoverable and easy way of doing it. The fun part about this is that you can see who else is tagged in a photo as well. So there might be good discoverability. This is how I often find, like, if a blogger tags, what they're wearing in their pants, what sunglasses, and their shoes, I might then, oh, I love those shoes. Let me go to this account and see it. So it's just a way to kind of drill through that discoverability. But when you post a photo, you have the option of adding a tag, and that's typically when people will tag you. And the last piece is contests and giveaways. This is a great way for small brands to scale, but please know that doing too many of them will really you're not going to get the best engagement. So keep these few and far between, and find like-minded brands that look like you, that share your values, that maybe you have a complementary service. Maybe there's a hair salon and a nail salon that want to get together and do a pampering day. Whatever that can be, finding those like-minded services, and finding my tip for small brands, find a brand that's a little bit bigger than you so you can leverage their larger audience to help build yours. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of buzz through the next couple of slides, so we have some time for questions. That was the content is so important, so I'm really glad we spent some time on that. Different kinds of content, being consistent, all of that. So obviously, anybody that's using social media for the business, the ultimate goal, is to boost sales. You want to sell more of your product or service. So, what companies often don't realize is that you do have to spend the time building the community and building the brand awareness before you can really sort of achieve the sales increase. So if we can go to the next slide, Brittany. So the number one tip that I want to give here is that you should use free software like Google Analytics that you can install on most websites with just one click. And this will provide tons of information about which channels are driving traffic. And so what you want to do is really look at these analytics so that you can choose the platforms that are the most effective for your business. Go to the next slide. And as I mentioned this before, you really want to learn from your competition. Follow all of your direct and indirect competitors, find out what platforms they're using, what promotions seem to be performing well, and look at their content. If they have great content, copying is the highest form of flattery, as they say. So don't be shy about, without plagiarizing, of course, using examples of good content that your competition is using. And then I'm going to just toss it back to Claudia and Danielle about the importance of consistency.
Yeah, as we talked about before, whether it's color, voice, tone, I think that it's important to sort of feel like it's all coming from the same place. So again, making an outline for yourself, as we talked about Rode, we feature visually these 4 things, but what do we always talk about? So for us, hydration is like our secret to really, really healthy looking skin. Hydration, we talk about 4 times a week. We really stay consistent about not just the topic, but the way in which we speak about it. Rode, we don't use hashtags because we want to keep a certain aesthetic to even how our copy is laid out. So there's like rules that we've made for ourselves. How we use emojis. We use a certain color palette of emojis because that's kind of what feels right for the brand's sort of personality and how curated it is. There are, as I mentioned, like Benefit Cosmetics has one of the most irreverent tones online. Billy, the razor company, has one of the most bold personalities of any brand that I've seen. They're amazing, but you look at their feed and there's no mistaking that it's like really, really strong, punchy, direct, all of that. And the content that they feature all mirrors that aesthetic. It all feels like it's coming from that same irreverent kind of in your face, sort of, that bold personality. And then of course the color story tells you the same. One of the biggest parts of consistency though, is the ability to plan for it. So what's going to make it really difficult for you to stay on top of your feed or whatever is if you have not dedicated the time to plan your content. It's much easier if you're in that creative headspace, which is so hard for business owners because you're trying to sort of actually run a business and then also find this time to do it. If you carve out that time where, I have to sort of either find the photos in my feed or curate something or shoot a couple things on my phone, and I have to write a few words. If you're in that headspace, your posts, at least for that week, will be consistent because you're going to be in that mindset and that space to do that creative exercise, enlisting help of someone, that maybe you're not the most creative type. Maybe there's someone in your network or you're in your business or your friend or a family member that can help. It's much easier for them to sit and just look at, 10 different pieces over an hour versus one-off, little things here and there. So it's very interesting, I think, for consistency is also just consistency of the time that you dedicate to it. Moderating your posts, spending out, 10 minutes in the morning when you're like laying in bed, just seeing what new comments are new. Finding that time and staying consistent with community is also hugely important. So I think it's not just the quality and the content that you post, but it's how consistent you're engaging and you're creating the content to keep and fuel those platforms. So for me, platforms less is more. Road is not on Twitter. We are not on Snapchat. We are not on YouTube on our own. We have focused, we have Facebook as more of just like we don't post on there all the time. We post on Instagram and we post on TikTok. We've narrowed it to this much so that we can be consistent and focus on those well, because it does not make sense for us to play everywhere else, since we would be spread too thin and it would create a really poor consumer experience and brand personality.
Yeah, I think that is such an important piece of advice for any new business starting out. I have so many clients that come to me and says, I just don't have time to be on 7 different social media platforms. And what you're going to end up doing if you're trying to be on all these platforms is you won't do anything well. And so I think the advice that Claudia is giving about just choosing, 1 or 2 platforms to really do well. And if we can go to the next slide, Brittany, I just want to highlight the availability of scheduling tools to post. I know Claudia mentioned earlier that, a good practice is to take just an hour or 2 out of your week and say, okay, I'm going to set up all my posts. And I think that is advice that I give to my clients all the time, because if you just say, well, I'll just do it, each day I'll take some time out. Well, your day gets busy and you're like, oh, I didn't have time. And then you don't end up posting. Set aside some dedicated time to, think about your posts, choose the content that you want to do, and then use one of the, the many available scheduling tools. These are just some examples. Some of them are free, some of them are low cost. Take some time to look at some of these different types of scheduling tools and see what works for you. These are just some examples. There are many out there. So, but it's a really great way to just have your week done. You post. I know a common question is, how often should I post? Again, I always, recommend that it just be consistent. You don't have to post every single day. You don't have to post 5 times a day, but be consistent. Say, okay, I'm going to post 3 times a week. And I'm sure Claudia, has some advice on that too. But, check out these scheduling tools. It's a huge help. And then finally, we just wanted to go over some common pitfalls that a lot of people get into. And I know we've mentioned some of them as we've gone along, but just to sort of set them out here on one slide. So Claudia, I'll let you go over this slide.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, taking on too much. You want to just focus your energy onto 1 or 2 platforms that you can sustain. And up to that comment that Beth Ann made earlier about schedule, what do you want to post? If you want to really not have to deal with social media on the weekends, don't post on the weekends. It sounds very silly. It's nice to check in, but don't make more work for yourself if you can't take it on. Especially as you're starting out. You don't need to, you can post 5 times a week and it's okay. Again, struggling with that consistency. Make sure that you're moderating your posts, make sure that there's no spammers. There's a lot of bots on the internet, just cleaning up your posts, making sure that the hygiene of your feed stays nice and clean, even on LinkedIn posts too. Inconsistency with language, again, get in that mindset of creating that content once a week, and you will probably just have that consistency over time. And deciding what you want, what you post about, what you don't post about, where you engage, what you don't engage with, giving yourself rules and following those. And then I think too much contesting or graphics or memes, they're not engaging. People don't engage with those as much as they do with real, authentic, intimate content. Avoid those when you can.
Awesome. I think there's so much content that can be packed in. 1 hour was very ambitious of us, but I see some really wonderful questions, and I know that the panelists have done a really great job getting to the questions as we've kind of gone through the webinar. If you have to hop, no worries. We're going to answer just 1 or 2 quick questions, and I will put some resources in the chat. There will be resources in the follow-up email. So the support does not stop here, okay? So one question that has come up is someone has less than 1,000 followers on Instagram, but they are interested in doing a giveaway with other brands that have more followers. Is there a way that they can start engaging with another business that has more followers? What's the best way to do that? And Claudia, I will kick it to you.
One of the ways, if you're, one of the fun ways of doing it is if you find other brands, you can also find more than one brand that's in similar size. So if there's a few of you that have about 1,000 or so followers, it's fun to pull yourselves together to sort of grow a little bit more. That's one way of kind of hacking the growth strategy. Another way is to, if you build a relationship with the founder of that brand, they'll likely support you too. So DM them, find who the founder is, hey, I'd love to work with you. I'd love a giveaway. How can I support? Here's what I'm looking to do. It may take a little bit of time, but I think that building a relationship with the founder sometimes can be a nice way for them to like, oh, let me help you out, because probably someone along the way helped them out too. That like-mindedness comes in very handy at that time. But the other way is to find a couple other similar size accounts, and you can do it together. And it's like a little bit of a bigger moment for all of you involved.
That's really cool. I love that idea of just like banding together. And then another question that we got earlier is, we've talked a lot about engaging with your followers. This client mentions that, community management it's a lot of work. So is engagement with your followers, how important is it? Is it worth it?
How important is engaging with your followers?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important if you want them to continue to engage. It is time consuming. So I will say that especially as your account grows, it doesn't scale kindly for a single person. But I think it's important if you're asking questions of the community, if you're really wanting to show that, it's best to not treat social media like a broadcast platform always. YouTube can be a bit more of a broadcast since it's kind of meant for that medium, but even the comments on YouTube, you may want to engage with or moderate. You also want to make sure that there's no infighting. So you want to check in on the health of your community too. So I think it's pretty important.
That's great. Does anyone else have anything to add to our questions? I know there's so many questions in the chat, and I just want to encourage everyone, please keep an eye out in your email. We will have additional resources for you. And we do actually have an opportunity, if you want to meet one-on-one, you really want to get and dig into your social media strategy, you can actually sign up for a free coaching session. I just dropped the link in the chat. It'll be in the follow-up email. So if your question didn't get answered here, no worries, we have additional resources for you, so just keep an eye on your email. But yeah, thank you all so much. Danielle, Claudia, Beth Ann, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you all soon.
Yeah, and have fun with social media. I think that's more important than anything else. You shouldn't look at it as a drudge. It can be really fun. So have fun with it and you'll see the results. Thanks everyone for joining us.